started out as trees, no grass plants at all. And we came in, we harvested, it was mostly a mix of pine, early successional type stuff. We harvested off the pine, left some of the good trees. We got ash, walnut, persimmon trees, and so we left a lot of the mass-producing trees if possible, and let the pigs harvest it, when they fall. Pigs will crunch walnuts, they'll eat, of course, they love pecans and things like that. We don't have pecans, but they'll any type of nut tree they love to drop. So this is the true essence of pigs. Again, one of the big things we like to focus on here, well, I'll go through the nuts and bolts first. Nuts and bolts is two-strand electric fence, charger, same thing. Controls the animals. You can see it just has to be at snout level, and that keeps the pigs contained. This is also about a ½ acre paddock, and the pigs will only be in here until two things happen, or one, whatever happens first. One, we get to about 12 to 14 days, or two, they eat all that feed. That's our constant. So if they're in there longer than 12 to 14 days, they start impacting the ground to the point where it doesn't recover well. If they eat more than that feed, it puts more nitrogen on that ½ acre than you would want at any one time. So that gives you the balance. So it's about a ton, it's 2 tons of feed per ½ acre, or 12 to 14 days, whatever happens first. So go ahead.
So how many pigs?
So how many pigs? That varies. So in other words, if you have only 20 pigs, they're not going to eat that feeder in that amount of time. So you can either give them a ½ acre paddock, or you can drop it to a ¼ acre paddock, and one will happen. So, when they're young, a lot of times we end up moving them before the feeder's empty, and when they're old, they move like in 7 days. So it just depends on how it goes. That gives you the constant impaction. And you can change your paddock size based on, if you got 2 pigs, they can be in like a 10 by 10, and you move them every couple days. So it just depends on what you have. They get control. What's that?
What's the age of
the age of these pigs right here? These are they're ready to head out to be bacon and sausage and all sorts of other good stuff. And
Can we get samples?
yeah, stores open when we're done. Yeah. But they are normally they're 6 to 7 months from birth to processing for us. Yeah. But we take the other thing too is when you say that to a conventional farming friend, they're saying they're finishing them in 4 or 5 months. We're taking them up to about 325, even 350 sometimes. So if we were finishing at 450, 440, or 250, 240 like industry would, we'd be finishing about the same time. Yeah. So the key is rest. We have the old pig yards and stuff where they grew and they looked like a moonscape. So if I left these pigs here for 14 days, or over 14 days, into a month or 2 months, it would turn into a moonscape and nothing would grow back. So the pigs impact it, they eat all the green material, then they move on. It's all about rest, okay? All of the, the diseases, the health problems, the erosion problems, all of that happens when we don't move the animals and give it the long enough rest period, okay? So again, this is a group of about 24 pigs. Their group mates just went to processing last week. We go every week, and so this is next week's group, and they're just in here kind of biding time until that. Good thing is they don't know it. They're just hanging out. But you can see the savanna style we're trying to do. We have trees up high, open canopy trees, so we get grass growing underneath. And again, we never planted a seed here. We cut it from forest. It was 100% forest. Cut it, and then it went through its successional stages of brush, and then less brush, and then grass and stuff. Have we done, we've done some spot treating of, some extra saw work, or, occasional bush hogging here and there. But for the most part, the pigs have done the clearing, kept the clearing, and all of the grass that you see came in all by itself. There's an amazing latent seed bank in the soil if it's given the right conditions to grow. And so it's more about what you do to a piece of ground than what you put in that piece of ground. One second. And then one thing that we want to cover here with the pigs is, okay, so this is 24 pigs. There's virtually no odor when you're dealing with the pigs. That's what we want. We believe that our farming, those of you who've maybe read some stuff on my dad's or whatever, have probably heard the quote that we believe that agricultural should be aromatically and economically and aesthetically enhancing, okay? Or romantic, as he says. And so if we come out the door and smell something, say that's not very romantic. That's the reverse joke. But the idea here is that we want to be, we have our senses for a reason. If you smell something, it's not good. If you touch your child's forehead and they're warm, that's not good. We have all these senses for a reason, and so it's important that we use them. If you hear a pig squealing like you do in some of the PETA videos, as much as those may be doctored or extreme, the point is that you hear those, that doesn't sound right to you. And so those are what we want to see. This is a very peaceful setting. It's an enjoyable setting. As we live closer and closer to each other, it's very important that our food be able to be raised in a way that we don't mind living next to our food, okay? And so I think that we would all agree that living next to this type of food system, this kind of pig, is much, much different than living next to a CAFO. So we all are not interested in having a CAFO move next to a subdivision, but the fact of the matter is we're going to need to have our food be grown much closer to those subdivisions in the future. It's happening now. It is now. And so we want what was called embedded agriculture, okay? When you drove up here, if you were 100 yards from here and I didn't tell you there were pigs, you wouldn't know it. And that's what's really exciting to us. We want to pioneer, we want to continue to push the envelope to raise meat and protein sources and foodstuffs in a way that you don't notice when you drive up, okay? So literally, you don't mind living right next door to us and being able to enjoy the benefits of having your meat right next door. Yes, sir.
It looks like they damaged the trees. Is that?
Only they rub on. Again, only if you leave them here long enough. So these trees were here when we cut. This is about 20 years old now. This pasture is about 20 years old. This is a walnut tree that started just as a sapling at that point. And again, if you leave them in here long enough, they will damage it to the point of killing. But you have to rotate them and keep them moving. And some trees respond very well to it, and some trees don't. So that takes a little bit of finesse to get it done. Yes, sir.
Are you moving this fence?
No, this fence is pretty permanent. So this area here has 5 paddocks. So once they've gone through those 5 paddocks, if it's not regrowing fast enough for them to come back and start over, then they go to another set of paddocks. Or maybe it's time for them to be processed or what have you. My brother-in-law moves paddocks all the time. He has a bunch of open land that he uses 100% for pigs, and he moves it all the time. He has the 2 wheels that you just wind them up all at the same time. He moves them a lot all the time. Just different settings. We're using them for land clearing. He's using them for just pasture harvest and pigs. And it works fine. So for us, we don't move, but they certainly can. Yes.
I think you kind of answered the question.
Okay.
So you will put pigs back on the same pasture.
Oh yes, yes. This is maybe 3rd time through, I think. I think it's 3rd time through for these pigs. Yeah, it just depends on how much it's regrowing. Yeah, great. Yes, ma'am.
Do you vaccinate them or?
No,
or get
none of our
vets?
animals have any kind of vaccinations, shots, antibiotics of any kind.
Do vets come and check?
No, we don't have any. The only time that happens is if there's a problem, and there's no problems here, so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, there's no vet checks. The only time that happens is if you enter commerce. So if you were on to ship these animals from here to California live, then you have issues, and they want to check. But we've never failed one. I mean, we've had people come and do that. We've never failed one. But yeah.
You don't farrow your own.
We do not farrow our own pigs.
Commercially, it's not viable for you.
No, it's just that I only have 24 hours in my day still.
Another whole operation, isn't it?
So it's just another whole operation. And what it allows me to do is the question was, do we buy our pigs in? Yes. We buy weaner pigs, about 50 a month to contain our supply. And that allows us to buy pigs from local farmers. So buying pigs from us supports about half a dozen local small 20-sow operation, farrowing operations in the local community. And those are folks who are not necessarily organic or natural or sustainable farmers. They're just good pig growers. And so that allows us to touch another layer of farming people that we wouldn't typically get to, and begin moving them along and exposing them to a different type of agriculture and saying, if you, and we take them where they are. Some of them, none of them crate farrow. They all farrow at some form of loose housing setting. My brother-in-law raises a bunch. He farrows about 6 sows to a group out on pasture in round bales and doesn't touch them until they're weaned, and that's great. Others are somewhat in between, but allows us to move them along and say, we would like to continue to use your pigs, but we'd like you to stop doing this or start doing that or whatever, and begin that conversation of change. So it's really an exciting opportunity to talk with the local people I've gotten pigs everywhere from underneath old cars to it's interesting situations, but it allows you to touch other people, and they do great. And it would just be another whole operation that I have to take on. So that's why we do it. Yeah, great. Yeah.
So pigs are famous for the worm problems. Is the rotation, is that
The rotation pretty much takes care of the worm problems in hogs. If you talk to butchers, small butchers, they will say that all range hogs do have worm. And that is true. We have found that to be the case. But it's not to the point of overload where you're losing a lot of feed conversion or having health problems. So rotation is key there. We do have in the pigs, they do have a little bit of diatomaceous earth in their feed that helps. There's some great products for worming from the agrodynamics folks, and you can put that in the feed. But the rotation is very, very critical in a long rest period. Yeah. Yes.
Trying charcoal.
Charcoal works great too. We use charcoal from our wood stove. Put that out and they eat it like candy. That helps clean their liver. You bet. Yes.
You might answer this, but what is your rest period for the pack?
Rest period is whenever it grows back. And so in the wintertime, when they finish up this rotation, they probably will not come back till spring. But as long as the grass has regrown to this level, I mean, as you know, in the springtime, that could be 40 days or even less, 20 days, 30 days, and they can come back. And so whenever that happens, it happens. And so this is the third time through with these group, and it's been a good rest period time. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Just one quick question.
Yes.
Do you raise pigs through the winter?
We raise pigs through the winter. They're just not outside during the winter. In the winter, they're in either barns, hoop houses, on deep bedding, somewhere inside. But yeah, again, you don't want them outside. They will leave open ground. You will have erosion problems if you're not careful, and you'll lose soil if you leave open ground. So we want to bring them in before it gets real cold
Some
and
sort
dormant.
of shedded.
Yeah, all the hoop houses stuff, they're in there. They're in the sheds. All deep bedding. They get hay, bedding chips, all that stuff to keep them going in the wintertime. Yeah, good. Okay, yes, one more. Can you run them on acorns? Can you run them on acorns? Yes. We will not get to see an acorn glen today, but if you watch the pigs in glens and stuff like that, the video, yes, we will take pigs of this size, put them up into the woods when the acorns fall, which is about now to another, basically now through the end of October, and they will self-manage. We'll put a pig feeder in there for them, but they will go off a pig feeder for 3 or 4 days and self-harvest acorns, on their own. We haven't ever done anything to keep those separate or anything, or do a special group of pigs for acorns. We just save a little bit of feed money. And on that, we usually big pigs, they'll stay in one wire, and we'll just run one wire from tree to tree with string, and that allows the tree to continue to grow, and the wire just zigzag, and we'll do big, like 4 or 5 acre paddocks, and turn 50 pigs in, and they'll go range everywhere, and then come back to the feeder after 2 or 3 days, and that's really, really good work.
You have to call the feral hogs?
No, we don't have feral hogs yet. So we know that's an issue in some of the southern states. We have not had we've had people when they do this, add a couple strands of electric fence to it, make it a little bit hotter, try to keep feral pigs out. Mixed results, it's still being, we're still crossing that bridge, I think. Yeah. No, that's the thing. They will make a little bit of water right there. Sometimes that was an old mud puddle that they made. It actually wasn't a water leak. It was actually a mud puddle, and they made that to root in some. Again, we want pigs. We want animals to express their distinctiveness. So a pig has a plow on the end of its face to do stuff with and to root them up. So we're using them in a way of keeping the land stirred up so that we don't have, it doesn't revert to forest. This is a situation where we want it to go from forest to pasture. And to do that, you want disturbance. And disturbing the ground, rooting it up like they're doing over here or down here is a good thing on a limited basis, small batches at a time. Yeah, so we want them to root. They're not ringed. We want them to root some, and so if they, they'll come down around this stump. I mean, this stump was cut off clean to the ground. Now it's almost dead. They'll root that all around and find all the bugs and stuff that's in there. Yeah, good. That's one.
Certain breeds you like.
Certain breeds we like best. Anything that doesn't do well in the show ring. If a guy calls you up and says, I have some good show hogs, you say, thanks, no thanks. So, if they have that big ham and a big shoulder and real narrow in the middle, like bodybuilders and stuff like that, don't want those. You want a straight hog, and so, if you want old spots, if you want Duroc, if you want old breed York Hampshire crosses, those are all great, just not successful in the show ring. And they'll be fine, because again, through amalgamation and extrusion, you can take a bunch of pork, weight, and turn it into a McRib sandwich but we need proportion. We need the loin and the bacon and the ham to all be proportionally. And a hog that's straight and long, 1940s genetics will do that very, very well.